This is the upcoming OneXPlayer G1, and I was lucky enough to go hands-on with it for a few hours at CES this year. Overall, it's definitely a solid device, and if you're not familiar with this, some of the stuff has been a bit of a secret, but now they've actually launched their Indiegogo, so we can finally talk about everything they've got going on with this. And first and foremost, this is a laptop slash handheld. It's a work machine, it's a gaming machine, small form factor enough to fit inside of a bag for travel, but we don't have a super small screen. This is actually coming in at 8.8 inches, but with the way they've got this laid out, mini laptop with built-in controls, it doesn't feel like a huge device, even though we're working with a much larger screen than most of the other handhelds on the market right now. It's got a decent selection of I/O around back here. It also supports a micro SD card slot. And one of my favorite things is the detachable physical keyboard. In this video, I've got a lot to cover, plus we're going to be taking a look at some gameplay on the G1. But before we get into it, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Urcdkeys. I've been using this site for quite some time now. They offer Steam keys, Uplay, Ubisoft, but the main thing I pick up over here are Windows 11 Pro keys. And right now, if you use code ETA, you can get 30% off. So at checkout, we'll just enter the code ETA. That's going to bring the price down to $20.40 for a full Windows 11 Pro key. They're going to email you that key, and then you can activate Windows. Speaking of that, let's head over to a new PC that I recently built. As you can see, we're running Windows 11, and from Settings, we're going to go to Activation Settings. It's going to tell us that we're not active. We don't have a key installed, so we're just going to paste it right in here. Choose Next. It's going to activate Windows for us, and we're ready to go. If you're in need of cheap Windows keys, I'll leave a link in the description. And remember, you can use code ETA for 25% off. So I thought this was a really awesome idea. Once we pull this off, it's going to reveal our built-in controls, and we've also got a mini keyboard. So it's a touch-based keyboard, but it also works as a full trackpad, and I'll show you that in just a bit. But with the unit I was able to go hands-on with, it's not a production unit, so there are a few things that are going to change here, like the fact that the included detachable keyboard will be RGB, and if you take a look at the top row here, they're also going to be adding a number section, which was missing from the pre-production unit I was able to go hands-on with. But I personally do like this setup. Now, as you can see, we've got our D-pad, we've got some analog sticks. These are Hall-based. All of the buttons felt pretty decent here for what we've got. And going into this, I thought typing would be a pain on this touch panel keyboard, but it does work out much better than I thought it would. So yeah, I do like the form factor. Down here, we've got that touch panel keyboard and our touchpad right in the middle. But the cool thing is we can actually disable the keyboard totally and just use the whole bottom as a touchpad. Quick hotkey built in right up here, so we can swap between keyboard and touchpad, but we'll always have touch right there in the middle, plus we've got a touch screen on this unit. Again, they will be adding a number row on the production unit, and there is a little bit of a lip once we remove the physical keyboard there, but it doesn't dig into your hand or anything like that when you have to reach over it to get to those analog sticks. When I first saw this unit, I figured it would dig right into your palm, but you don't have to reach over that far to get to the controller here. I was able to test out some real gaming on this, and we'll get to that in just a bit. I mean, we've got a great performer here because this one's powered by the AMD Ryzen Ai HX370. So we've got a good idea of what kind of performance this is going to put out, and right here is that lip. Doesn't come up too far. But another thing they announced at CES is the fact that they're going to be offering two different CPU variants. Came as kind of a surprise because they will be offering an Intel version with the new Intel 200H chip. It's actually the Intel Ultra 7 255H. So we get 6 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores, and 2 low power efficiency cores up to 5.1 gigahertz. And with this new chip from Intel, we get a new iGPU, and they've dubbed it the Intel Arc 140T. It is a bit different from the 140V and the Intel Core Ultra 258V we see in something like the MSI Claw 8 Plus AI. It's based on Alchemist, but it does have XMX. 8 Xe cores, and it's got a higher clock than the 140V. Really interested to see how this iGPU performs, and yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on something with it, be it a laptop or even a handheld. But the one that I was able to test out has that AMD Ryzen Ai HX370, and with this we get the Radeon 890M iGPU with 16 CUs. And just taking a look at their benchmarks that they've run in-house, it does kind of line up with the performance that I've been seeing from other devices that have this same chip. Cyberpunk at low settings, 65 FPS, and that's actually on the lower end side. I definitely get a lot more out of that. Wukong, 76, Forza Horizon 5, 90, so on and so on. Now again, we've got the detachable physical keyboard, and while it's connected, it's actually working over the pogo pin, so it is a wired connection. But this keyboard also supports Bluetooth, so it doesn't go to waste. You can actually just set this over to the side, it'll be connected over Bluetooth, and you can still utilize it while it's detached. When it comes to I/O, does have that micro SD card slot, 2 USB 4 ports, full-size USB 3.2, Oculink, and a 3.5mm audio jack. An 8.8-inch 16:10 aspect ratio display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600, and it's 97% DCI-P3. Now I want to get into a little bit of gameplay here, and it's not my usual filming setup with any of this right now because I was at CES in a hotel room, but I think it does look pretty good. You can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Overwatch 2, medium settings, 1200p, getting over 100 FPS on average, and with that HX370, I mean, I've seen some really good performance in these esports games, so if you did want to go with something like Fortnite, Dota, Overwatch, CSGO, it's going to run at full speed just fine. And if you take a look at Afterburner, you can see we're only at an 18-watt TDP with this. It does have OneX console built in, so we can fully adjust that TDP. And don't quote me on this, but I think it's from 5 to 30 watts. It might go to 35 from OneX console, but yeah, I know for a fact that with a third-party application, we can take it up a bit more. But the next one I have here is God of War Ragnarok, 1200p low settings with FSR frame gen on, and we're at an 18-watt TDP. Not quite drawing 18 watts, and we're seeing an average of around 83 FPS. With AMD's frame gen technology being implemented in a lot of the new AAA games, I mean, with the HX370, it looks like most of the stuff hitting the market nowadays is definitely going to be playable over that 60 FPS mark on this chipset. As soon as I can get my hands on one of these production units, we will do some battery testing, lower TDP testing, and higher TDP testing. But for now, I just kind of wanted to set it right there and see what we could do. And so far, I mean, it's definitely performing on par with other HX370 devices we've tested. Next one I have here is Mortal Kombat 1, low settings, 1200p, 18-watt TDP. And if you did want to take this up to medium, we can do this at around 22 watts medium settings. But yeah, going down the low just to kind of test it at that, I'd say, performance benchmark wattage that we've been seeing with other handhelds on the market. 16 up to 18 watts is usually around performance nowadays. And finally, Forza Horizon 5, 1200p, medium settings. I'm only at a 15-watt TDP, and we're not using any kind of scaling whatsoever, so no FSR, no XeSS. We really don't need it with this one. Very well optimized, and on the HX370, I mean, we can get up in the 80s with it at 15 watts. And if it really came down to it, at a 20-watt TDP, low settings with this game, we could run it at a continuous 120 FPS across the board. So yeah, while testing the HX370 model, I saw some great performance out of this little machine. I would love to test the new 255H in this. I know that the iGPU was based on Alchemist, but they kind of reworked it. It does support XMX, and we could see some really good gaming power out of that new version also, but I really can't tell until I get my hands on it, get some testing done on that chipset. So yeah, it's turning out to be a solid device. They do have an Indiegogo up right now. I'll leave a link in the description to that and their official website in case you want to learn a little more. But as soon as I can get my hands on a production unit, we will make a full review video on it. But until then, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you've got any questions or you want to see anything else running on this once we get one in hand, let me know in the comments below. Like always, thanks for watching.